Hello, so in today's video we are going to talk with the creators of the DRUMBEAM, this amazing expressive controller for drummers. So let's get started.
This is DRUMBEAM, our next generation compact MIDI controller. It features continuous positional sensing and velocity. You can even use gestures such as squeezing. There are tons of exciting possibilities. Change the number of drum segments as well as their color, size and individual behavior. Just use our configuration app and set up your drumming controller like never before. With positional sensing, you can seamlessly fade between samples or modulate any parameter of your synth, drum machine or DAW. No need to twist knobs anymore. We are literally getting you away from keyboard.
I met the DRUMBEAM when I was reacting to the MIDI Innovation Awards, and that was pretty mind-blowing. I really loved the instrument, it looks super professional. So, nice to meet you, I'm Gustavo. So, who are you guys?
Yeah, thanks for inviting. I'm Flori. I'm doing electrical engineering and firmware development at AFK Audio. And yeah, I'm working on the electronic and firmware development for the DRUMBEAM currently. Sebastian?
My name is Sebastian. Nice that you have us here, Gustavo. I started the whole thing a couple of years ago, building the first prototypes, and I'm glad that it came so far and that Flori and the whole AFK Audio team is now bringing it to the market.
Awesome. So you already mentioned the first thing a couple years ago. So it's not something that just happened overnight. Every time when I was talking with Alexandra in our about the Demon Box, she said that like she's been working for many years, like 10 years in the first prototype, and like, oh my God. So can you tell us, are you a musician? How did you come up to the idea? Have you built instruments before, like the real beginnings of the DRUMBEAM?
Yes, well, it's not 10 years for us. It's more like 4 years now. I've been working with instruments a lot at my main job at the university, at the chair of acoustics and haptics. Been doing projects for guitar manufacturers, giving lessons about music acoustics and so on. And I'm a drummer myself. So one day I started or tried to build some e-drum things for myself, starting playing around with piezos and Arduinos and Teensy boards, stuff like that. So I think that was around 2020, maybe 2021. There was a first prototype with a lengthy wooden bar where I mounted some sensors on top and played around with that. And this thing, I took it with me to the university. I had a lecture at the Dresden College of Music. And I gave it to one of the students there. I was a drum student to do some sound synthesis with the very early prototype. And the funny thing was, next day his drumming professor, called me and asked if he also can get 2 of those. And well, I said, of course I can do that. It was just a wooden thing, so I then made it out of metal. And also made one for myself, played around with that a bit more. Could already detect the position when you hit it at different positions, but it was without LEDs. So I had sometimes problems to find the right spot to hit. So I thought, oh, well, I need to add some visual feedback. So I added some LEDs to this thing. And I have also one of those early prototypes here. It's a bit broken now. You see, it looks completely different than the final instrument that we have nowadays. Only had light on one side, but was already kind of sturdy thing. And at that point, Flori joined the team, started as a diploma student at the chair where I was working, and started doing some calibration software development for this thing because we had problems to like get the right position of the hit all the time. Yes, so that was the very early beginning of the whole thing.
Okay, so you had the idea, was for you. Then they start with repeats. A friend asks, can you do one for me? And then things go from there. and then Flory joined. So before we talk about more about business and details, explain for us what is the drum beam, what it does, how it is different from other electronic drum.
The main point is that you can completely customize it. So I can show it. We have it here on the desk. You have it's like just this bar, super small and compact. You can fit it in your backpack, and you have LEDs on both sides. And then you can have like 5 segments, as you have here. They light up when you hit it, and you can switch a preset. And then you have 3. You can switch presets and have even more or less, and have different colors and shapes. And also it can precisely detect the position where you hit it. So when we have no sound on this one currently, but if you hit it, you can change the sound if you hit it here or here. This is done with MIDI-CC parameters that are transmitted. And yeah, like this is pretty unique, I would say.
Nice. And I see also that it is meant to be used like a drum you have in a stand. So you could also add this to your regular drum kit?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what it's made for. We have it here on a desk stand, but also it can be mounted on a regular cymbal stand. You can add it to your drums, and yeah, it's made to play with sticks, but also works with hands.
So, and it is a MIDI controller, so it doesn't have its own sounds. You need a computer, or how do you use it? Is USB, Bluetooth?
It has MIDI USB and also DIN MIDI, like MIDI TRS outputs, so you can connect it easily to hardware. I, for myself, sometimes use it with my drum machine to just add some percussions in like techno or electronic jams. You can also connect it to your modular system. I did a video about that yesterday, I think. So yeah, there are plenty of possibilities, but also you can just use it as a super handy controller for your DAW producing at home.
Awesome. And I love that Sebastian showed the first, like one of the prototypes. One of my favorite things is seeing the prototype. Can you talk us about each iteration, how many, what has changed from the first to your last prototype? If you are already done, it's ready, or there's still things you need to fix. In which stage of prototype or final product you are?
Maybe I can quickly start again with the this is the 3rd prototype, I think. As I said, the first one was made of wood, second one just plain metal, the third one then already with light. And you see it's just a metal rod, and we had to squeeze all the electronics inside. So for prototyping, this uses a teensy, and the sensors are mounted on top, and then every cable, we need to squeeze all the cables inside. So it was really, actually, I remember sitting with Flory in my kitchen, and we're using a hammer to get all the electronics into the tube. So
we took actually like I think 6 or 7 hours to produce one drum beam. Like each of us had one to produce from this prototype version, and it took us like 6 hours to solder everything, get it into this metal enclosure. It was a total nightmare.
Yeah, so it's a long way, I think, from a prototype to a finished product like we see it now at Flory's.
Yeah, also, yeah, there were a lot of iterations. The one Sebastian shows there also uses completely different sensors. So these are commercial available sensors, flexible sensors that are just glued on top of this metal bar. And yeah, then we started developing our own sensor, which is capable of actual multi-touch. So you can detect as many positions at the same time as you want. And yeah, it's like a way better sensor. So we did a complete electronics redesign. We are using another chip now in the actual product than the teensy that we used in the first prototype. We redesigned the whole enclosure. Like we had at least, I think, 3 prototype versions of the enclosure to make sure every part fits in, to have LEDs on both sides, and also this neat silicon surface here. The old surface was just glued on top of this metal bar. yeah, I think there were a lot of iterations since this early prototype to make it into an actual product that you can like manufacture and sell to people.
Yeah, and it's crazy that for us, at least I came from a musical background, and then I started to learn programming and electronics. But usually when I talk with creators, one of the biggest problems or challenges is the enclosure. When I was talking with Ben Glover, he designed it's a keyboard in a hexagonal layout similar to the Lumatone. I don't know if you know the Lumatone. So it's intended to be some sort of open source version of the Lumatone, and he said how much time that he didn't think he would spend just trying to print a key that would actually fit in the button, that would not snap or fall, just like printing lots and lots, just like, okay, 1 millimeter tinier. I had this problem a lot too. So the enclosure is something that we don't, at least for me, the people that I talk, something that we don't usually expect that we're gonna have to spend so much time and have so many problems.
Yeah, luckily we have a second engineer for this in the team, Kirill, who is unfortunately sick today. But he's mechanical engineer, and he did like all the mechanical parts and also the sourcing, which is also a big thing to think about. Like, where did you get the parts from, and where do you source like this enclosure and also the surface and screws and a lot of stuff. There are so many like small details to think about, and yeah, mostly Kirill did a lot of work in this whole enclosure thing, so this was a really huge step to get this done.
Not only the enclosure, he also spent a lot of time on how to get a good mounting option for the whole thing.
Yes, this as well. This is also not quite easy, since there are a lot of different standards in drum hardware with different diameters for clamps and different sorts of percussion clamps, and yeah, so it was quite hard to have a mounting system that fits for as many drum hardware as possible.
Nice. And before we get into more technical details about the instrument, so you mentioned you have another engineer, a mechanical engineer. So that's the difference between when you're just a maker, you are creating your own stuff, and then you are creating a business. You need to add more people, you need to have market engineers. So how was the process this from, okay, I'm making an instrument for me or for my friends, and okay, this has potential, I want to make into a product, sell it, so I need to hire more people. How is this process?
We showed the instrument at the Super Booth Fair was that 2022?
Yeah.
And wanted to apply for some funding as well, so that we can like increase the team in 2022. And at that time we were looking for other people who wants to join the project. So we were looking for a mechanical engineer, we were also looking for a marketing guy, and luckily we got to know Lawrence, who is now part of the team. And I think these were the people 2 years ago. And then we luckily also got some funding. So we got some governmental money to like bridge 1 year of development. And that helped a lot to get the whole thing running.
So basically, I came to Sebastian, and also from when I started studying electronics, I wanted to make musical instruments. So I came to Sebastian and said, I want to write my final thesis at your chair, and I want to do something about musical instruments. And then Sebastian said, I have this idea. Maybe we can make a thesis out of that. And yeah, then this was, I think, the point where we thought, this is actually a quite cool idea. We should try to make a product out of it. And since there is no audio gear company in Dresden where I could work. We just decided to found a company ourselves. And yeah, then this idea of this governmental funding came in and we applied for it. And this funding is actually for 3 people working full-time on the product. So yeah, we looked for 2 other people to work full-time on it, and we found them, and like this was the kickoff point for this project to be like a real product.
Awesome. So I guess I understood, but what would be your advice, like for people that are watching, they have an idea and they want to make it into a product? Some advice is that those things that like, oh, if someone told me before, or just things you've learned.
I think one advice would be to just go out and look for feedback from others and meet other creators and also customers, users who would use it, get as many feedback as you can, and try to implement that. And while doing that, you meet a lot of cool new people, you connect to other creators, and you can learn a lot just by going out and showing your idea and your prototype to others. So just don't hide it in your cellar and go out and show it.
Awesome. I guess it's, and I have this problem, which is trying to do everything by myself, hiding here in my nerd musician cave. But yeah, that's great advice. So going to booths. It's,
and another thing is to just like think about all use cases that it can be used in. So like think ahead of what you would do with it, but also like think of what others would do with it, what it can be used for.
Okay, awesome. I would like for you to describe the instrument in more technical details. Like, I don't know how much you can share, but sensors, microcontrollers, informations about the enclosure, how the programming, the ins and outs for the nerds out there. What can you share of how the instrument works?
So for the enclosure, it's solid aluminium. It's currently CNC manufactured, and so it's really solid. When you hold it in your hands, it feels like really heavy, but not too heavy, but like the right amount of weight, and it's really solid. It feels like you can also use it as a beating stick. And yeah, the surface is, as I said, made out of silicon. Actually, this was one thing I investigated in my final thesis. What surface parameters are best for playing with sticks, like what feels good. I did a survey with different drummers and tried different materials and like what stiffness, what rebound feels best for drumming on it. And yeah, also we have, from connection-wise, we have USB-C for power and MIDI USB, and also for programming. So you can also easily do firmware updates just by drag and drop it on the device. And we have MIDI TRS in and outputs for connecting with your hardware. Yeah, as I said, it's running on an ESP32 chip. So this is a quite cool chip platform with a lot of cool IoT features. And this is one thing we are also really proud of. We implemented a configuration app, which is running as a website on the chip, and the chip opens a Wi-Fi. You just connect with your phone or a computer or tablet to the Wi-Fi. Just open a website in the browser. You don't need to install any app or anything on your device, and just open the browser, and you can use that to configure the drum beam to set color, size, a number of segments, MIDI channel, MIDI node, CC number, anything like this is just configured via Wi-Fi, and this is a huge advantage of this ESP32 chip, that it has an onboard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna, and you can basically use it just as a web host.
Wow, that's awesome. That I haven't heard before.
I don't know if you know the Soundcraft digital mixers.
No.
They use a similar approach that are just rack mixers, like for live mixing, and you connect your tablet or a computer to it via Wi-Fi, and then you have your virtual mixing console, faders and EQs and stuff like that, and you control it just over Wi-Fi. You don't have like any haptical faders, and this is quite similar approach, and we just used this approach for configuration.
Wow, that's awesome. And how did you? So is there a library for that, or you created from scratch, or you started from other projects? How did you get into this idea and realization of this the web app using the ESP32?
Actually, like we needed some way to configure it, obviously, because it don't have has any user interface. It doesn't have a display or anything where you can set up parameters. And we had that hard coded in the first prototype that Sebastian showed previously. But yeah, you need some way to configure what MIDI node is sent on which channel and on which segment sends what MIDI node and stuff like that. And we thought about how to do it, and our first idea was to do it over USB. But the disadvantage would be that you always need to connect it to your computer. Also, when you're using it with hardware, you need to disconnect it from power and connect it to your computer. You would need to install an app or something like this. And then we looked for what chip platform we would use for the product, and yeah, I was investigating into it a bit, and I had the idea with this Wi-Fi antenna of the ESP32 that we can just yeah, configure it over air, and yeah, then there are libraries for the Wi-Fi, obviously, so that is quite easy to set up, just to open a Wi-Fi network, and also to have a HPPD server running and a DNS server. This was quite easy, but then actually building this web app was a lot of work, I would say. We did this with the help of another developer, which is a friend of us. And yeah, so we implemented this web app. It's still a work in progress. It's not finished yet, but it already looks quite good and works well.
Nice, awesome. And can you tell us about the sensor? Because you mentioned that before you were using a sensor that you could buy. Can you detail which sensor you were using, and how is the sensor now that you developed?
Was a flex pot called like that. And actually, we stacked two sensors on top of each other. One was responsible for detecting the position, that was the flex pot, and the other one was responsible for detecting the pressure. So that worked nice, but it had the disadvantage that it worked very well for one touch position, which is not enough if you want to hit it with two sticks or press with one hand, hit it with the other stick. And so we needed a real multi-touch thing. And that's why an own development was necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Like the problem was we had some software trick to read out two positions at once, but it was a bit like yeah, it was a bit tricky. Yes, exactly. And we wanted to have actual multi-touch feature. But honestly, I can't talk too much about the current sensor design because we are still in patent application process, and so I can give you real details on what we implemented there, because we want to get a patent still on that. But yeah, we did a lot of improvements and have now like a full multi-touch and multi like pressure capabilities, so you can have as many points as you want, and you can read out the pressure of each point independently, so you can do a lot with that, not only just drumming, but in the future you can also implement like gesture detection on it if you do like this and continuously hold it or something like this. So yeah, it has a lot of capabilities.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really nice to see this rise of expressive controllers. I guess Rowley maybe pioneered, at least made it popular, right? That you have multi-touch surfaces, and so yeah, I love it, and we are closer and closer to play electronic instruments that feel that just like acoustic instruments, as expressive, just like acoustic instruments. And you mentioned that you are patenting the sensor. How is this how is it the process, and like why do you think you need to patent? Like what is the advantage? Why did you decide to do that?
Like one point is we did a lot of developing and engineering on the sensor design, so we want to protect it, so nobody else can just like copy our design and the sensor, and just like, because we are a small company, we need like at least a bit of basic protection that not a big player like Behringer or someone else just like builds it and sells it for half the price. And the other point is that it's also cool to have, like, it's also from a marketing perspective good to have this patent, to say we have like our own patented sensor design. It's just something which like gives which is remarkable, yeah, I would say. And I think the patent application process is quite complex, but yeah, we're just in the middle of it. Hope it works out well.
The patent is for the hardware or hardware and software?
I think mainly for the hardware. Mm-hmm. But I'm not writing the patent myself. Kirill is doing it, so I'm not into this too much.
Okay, and you guys are running, not yet, but are you going to run a Kickstarter campaign? Right. So can you tell us about what are the plans from now? You got the prototype. It's amazing. You're gonna do the Kickstarter campaign. So how do you plan to grow the company, sell this, manufacture larger in a large scale? Like, what do you think are the steps from going from your prototype to having this instrument on people's homes?
Yeah, we are starting the Kickstarter on November 5th, and it's already online, our Kickstarter site, so you can go to the website and pre-save it, which is really helpful for us. And yeah, so the plan is to use the money we get from the Kickstarter campaign for production of the first batch. So yeah, we have the development almost finished. There is still some stuff to do, mainly configuration app and like a lot of fine-tuning of parameters, and to have a like really good instrument. And yeah, we will deliver it I think in early 2025. So when the Kickstarter campaign ended, we will use the money to buy all the parts and stuff we need to order PCBs, to order enclosures and everything, and produce it. And yeah, we will manufacture the devices. For the first batch, we will do it ourselves here in Dresden, and then yeah, we will ship it out, I think, in February, March, something like that.
Okay, so I don't know exactly when this video is going to be on, but I'll make sure it's going to be during the Kickstarter campaign. So if you're watching this video, check their link, yeah, and get your drum beam. Hey guys, so I guess that's it. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours, but I would like you to share whatever else you want, website, plans, whatever message, so we can say goodbye.
Yeah, so it would really help us if you could support us on our Kickstarter campaign. And also it would help us if you could follow us on our social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And yeah, we are really thankful for your support. We hope that we are able to actually start audio hardware company in Dresden. That has always been my dream, to develop audio instruments, to have something like this in my hometown, to have our own company and develop our own product. Yeah, this would be a dream for me, and I hope it will come true. So thank you for inviting.
It's been a long way from the first prototypes to where we are now. It was a lot of work, and it's really, really cool to see first people using it in the real world, sharing reviews and doing videos with it online. So I love this process and also the step where we are now. So, and hope that I see that many people like it, and think we'll see where the journey goes. So thanks for having us, Gustavo.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope we can get back here in the future. Maybe after
would love to.
It's launched, or whenever you guys want it. You're welcome.
Sure, would love to.
Okay, so
hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much, guys, from AFK Audio. I hope to have you back here in the channel, and good luck with the Kickstarter campaign. So check their Kickstarter campaign and also follow them on their social media. Let's help them out. And if you would like to build your MIDI controllers, to build a company, or to have your own custom instrument, check my Nerd Musician Pro course here below, a comprehensive course where I teach you how to build MIDI controllers from DIY to professional, so you can also put one in the market and get rich. There I'll teach you the easiest way how to build them, because you just need to adapt my templates. You don't need to learn how to code, but if you want to learn how to code, I also have all this information there. I have everything you need there, my support, and a community with thousands of other creators. So press that subscribe and like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!